All right, welcome back. As in report, during the closed session, council received information regarding items 7.1 and 7.3 and approved the closed session minutes under item 7.2. Item 9 is communications and petitions, which there are no items tonight. 10 is consent reports. We have an information package. Is there anything? Sorry. You're good?
Never mind.
Okay. Is there anything in the consent reports that you'd like to see pulled out for this meeting? Councillor Kirkby?
Yes, I'd like to pull out the municipality of Wawa resolution RC 23163, please.
Okay. What about because there's two with the same resolution. You just want one?
Yeah, so I believe that's the original one, I believe,
Okay.
from the municipality of Wawa. Maybe I read that wrong.
That's fine. We'll pull it out. Anyone else? Councillor Young?
Thank you, Mayor Shanker. Number 3, the Granby living wage.
Okay. All right. Got those? Okay. So making those amendments, then the recommended motion is that all items listed under consent report section of the agenda, other than the two that we removed, be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor McConnell, Councillor Burton. Any further discussion? All in favor? Pass. Thank you. Okay, item 11 is committee reports. There are 4 items under this committee reports. Matthew, you got the first one?
Sure, I'll do all 4.
Do all 4? Gotcha.
So the first one is for 135 Prescott Center Drive. It's for the hotel site. And what we were doing at this meeting was just setting the easements for water and wastewater. And so there's a number of things that they need to do, as well as McDonald's force main, their water connection, and then where the town's infrastructure goes. So it did pass. There were several neighbors in the audience who had questions that were separate from the easement. I did meet with them on Friday afternoon. Just passed. They were happy with all of the answers they received in terms of the development, how it will be separated from their properties, that sort of thing. And so that was kind of the total of this particular application. Thank you.
Any questions there? Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. Not as to the easements, but what the easements are for. There's obviously a fair amount of infrastructure going to have to be put in for a hotel simply because of the volume of business there. Who pays for that?
So in terms of the force main and the water main that they're putting in, they're paying for. When the Dollarama went in, they actually had to change the route of the force main for the McDonald's because it was running through the middle of the lot. And so when they did that, they also laid the pipe for the hotel. So it runs along Prescott Center Drive and then connects to Mackenzie. All of that was not at the town's cost. The connection that currently goes to McDonald's that runs through the middle of the property, they'll be able to reuse that to be for the hotel itself. And then I think that covers the 2 force mains as well as that. And then the town of Prescott, when they installed the water main through the middle of that property, didn't install it in the right spot whatsoever. So it is not in an easement and certainly shouldn't have been put where it is. The town will be paying for that to straighten out where it's supposed to go, where it should have gone in the first place. And then that will alleviate all the issues.
Do we have a dollar figure?
Yes, so it's approximately 130,000 to change where that water main runs, because it is a large 12-inch water main.
That will be coming from?
Our reserves.
One more, if I may. My first term, when they built the service center for the trucks up there was a fire hydrant in the middle of section, it was relocated into somewhere in that property as well. Is that now on the road as well?
No, so it's currently on what will be the north side of the road in terms of where it comes in by the McDonald's. We are relocating it one more time to the south side of that road, but it will stay there and for future development possibilities. So the one that was in kind of the middle of the field was at the end of an abandoned line that occurred when the last house on Mackenzie was built. So this kind of fixes all of that as well as provides for future development.
And is that at our cost as well?
That includes the 130 in terms of.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So if there's no other questions on that one, I can move to the next one. And I just have to go back and see which one I'm talking about next. The next one, and I'm going to talk about the next two together. So 11.2 and 11.3 is for Northern Cables. They own a lot adjacent to them on Eliza that runs along the railroad tracks to the east of their current lot. So it's owned by Northern Cables, has been for several years. If they were spelt exactly the same, MPAC would naturally automatically combine them because it's owned by the same owner. In this particular case, there's a dot at the end of incorporated on one and not on the other, so it wasn't automatically combined. So went through the consent application. We had no one from the neighborhood that posed any questions or had any concerns. And so the first application was to combine the two lots. The second application is a minor variance, as their intention is to build a coverall on that particular lot on Eliza. And they were reducing the front yard setback from, I believe, 12 meters to approximately 8.3. Again, none of the neighbors showed up, had any concerns, inquired, so both of those applications were approved. And we see it as a good opportunity for them to be able to move their storage into a covered area, as well as their intention is being actually able to move some of that storage out of the building and add in additional production lines. So good news of being able to repurpose space within the plant itself and continuing their expansion in Prescott.
Very good. Councilor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor Schenker. I drove back there and had a look at that today, and I wouldn't want to live across the street from that. There's a berm there that's covered with rank weeds. It's an awful looking mess, and this would certainly be an improvement for it. So it's good for the factory. I think it's good for the neighborhood, and that means it's good for us.
So,
Thank you.
anyone else?
Okay. 11.4 is on 663 Dibble Street West, is a house that has a 0 lot line setback. So what it means is when the house was originally built, they built it right on the lot line. They wish to add a small addition. And so the house kind of runs along the lot line, juts back, and then comes forward. In a small area where it juts back in, they would like to build an addition. And so that went through the Committee of Adjustment as well to provide a minor variance to continue along that 0 line setback. There was a couple of additional items that were added to the approval. And one is that they can't have a window on that new addition because it would be looking directly into the house beside. And secondly, that it's built with non-combustible materials. And so because we're starting to come up a little bit closer to the adjacent house, then having the non-combustible materials, building materials, makes sense from a fire separation standpoint. So again, we didn't have any neighbors come in or have any issues or have any complaints about it. And so it also was approved.
Question?
Oh, actually, I had to look at that one too, and yeah, it is right in the line, but the house next door is not right in the line. It's a distance from the, many years ago when I applied to put an addition on my own house, the power that be at the time, Clyde Solomon, that said, you know, in the old part of town, if it looks good, if it doesn't detract from the neighborhood, if nobody objects, it's a good thing to do. And this looks to me like it's a reasonable ask.
Matthew, is it, are they building it 2 floors or just 1 floor?
Just one floor.
Thank you. Any other questions for Matthew? No? All right, thank you, Matthew. That's it?
It is.
15 is resolutions. There are no resolutions tonight.
Yep.
I missed a bunch, right? Sorry, yeah, I skipped the page. Darn, I wish I could do that.
Hurry to get out.
No. Is it Monday Night Football? Mayor's meeting, mayor's section. So that we opened, soft opening of Renegades. They opened last week. That was fantastic. Councillor Young and Councillor Burton and I were there for that. It was, it's going to be a nice addition to the town. I did attend Spencerville Fair opening ceremonies, and they said that I was the first mayor to attend that in the last 20 years. So I don't know why that is, but since it's the closest fair to us, I think we should celebrate them, and they did a great job. And I just excited to tell the town that our community improvement plan is back on, and if you would like to apply, it's open now. So let's get that going. The appeal has been dropped, so that's good. So that's positive news. Next section is outside boards, committees, and commissions. So we have a few. Councillor Byrne, do you have a St. Lawrence Shakespeare update?
Yes.
Oh, you do? All right.
How'd you know?
You're on my list.
They did an absolute wonderful job fundraising through the golf tournament that they had here in Prescott. Dave Dargy and his team, which included some of our board members, just phenomenal. And I think the end figure is approximately 19,000 raised.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, very, very good. So congratulations to everyone involved. And it was a great day. It's a great day.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
Any luck finding a new artistic director?
We are in the process actually of going down the resumes. We've gotten a lot of resumes,
Good.
which is good, a lot of interest. So we're just in the process of going through that and contacting those that are going to go for an interview.
Good. That sounds exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. Yeah,
Thank you, Councillor Burton. Councillor Young, you have a BIA update?
For sure. Thank you, Shankar. So at the last BIA meeting, we discussed Halloween planning ideas, so stay tuned for those. You'll be hearing about them shortly. There's Small Business Week is coming up, and we discussed ideas, possible hosting events and things like that for Small Business Week. And we heard a roundup of the summer activations that were all very successful. And we got to see the first Explore and Invest Prescott newsletter. So really,
Good.
the letter looks so great, looks really good. And good meeting.
Great, thank you, Councillor Young. All right, item 14 is staff report 61-2023 financial report. Matthew, I guess that's yours, eh?
Yes, thank you very much. So through the first 8 months of the year, we don't have any major concerns from either a revenue or an expense side at this point. We do note that joint services is projecting a possible deficit in some areas, and so we will keep an eye on that through the next several months. But I believe they also received some good news in terms of some WSIB funding from the previous year as one-time funding. So that should help offset some issues for this year, and then we'll just keep an eye on that. In terms of property taxes and revenue, all of the property taxes have been billed for the year. That's reflected in this report. We still have one that remains outstanding, and that's the final payment on October 31st, as well as it doesn't reflect the amount that's outstanding in taxes. So unless there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer, but that's the report for the first 8 months.
Any questions for Mr. Armstrong? Seeing none. It's just for information, so thank you. Next one is staff report 62-2023, Ministry of Transportation Highway 401 improvements from Highway 16 to Maitland, public information number 2. Recommendation reads that council directs staff to provide the Ontario Ministry of Transportation with feedback regarding the Edward Street interchange in relation to the Highway 401 improvements from 16 to Maitland as outlined in staff report 62-2023. Can I have a mover and seconder for discussion purposes? Councillor McConnell and Deputy Mayor Kirkby. Go ahead there, Matthew.
Thank you very much. And so the Ministry of Transportation in the province of Ontario started this process a couple of years ago. And they're taking a look at basically 1 kilometer east of Highway 16 all the way to Maitland Road and all of the interchanges in there. I believe there's 14 structures along that route, including the on and off ramps to 416, obviously Edward Street, Blue Church Road, Maitland Road, and so on and so forth. So we have been participating in that PIC 1 or the Public Information Center 1 I brought to council in January of 2022. And at that point, they have developed a number of options, and then they were working on further analysis as part of this PIC 2. So with PIC 2, they have kind of looked at the north side options. They are recommending what they call a Parklow A4. And the concept being is that they would realign the westbound off-ramp on the north side to come directly across from Development Drive. There would be an on-ramp coming from both the south that you would then get on the westbound. And if you're coming from the north, there would be another on-ramp for the north side. And they're looking at the south side. And they did look at other options, such as closing off Development Drive, looking at what they call a diamond formation, which would have no on-ramps so you'd have to cross traffic when you're trying to get back on the 401 if you're traveling from the north or the south. And then looking at a roundabout, which obviously is fairly uncommon in Eastern Ontario, let alone anywhere on the 401. And then there was another option to take Development Drive significantly north. All of those were evaluated, and they came to the Parklow A4 concept. For the south side, what they are looking at doing is similar to how it is today, slightly different by adding a northbound on-ramp to head east. And then if you're heading south, you would also be able to get on the on-ramp when you're coming over the bridge. So again, from a consistency standpoint, what they're suggesting for the north side is consistent with what they're suggesting on the south side. It would align the off ramps with Development Drive on the north and Prescott Center Drive on the south. We did have a follow-up conversation with the property known as 1500 Edward, which is immediately east of Edward Street around that north side ramp. They took a look and feel that the most beneficial option for them would be the diamond formation. And while we agree it would be the most optimal for them, it wouldn't necessarily be the most optimal for the other neighboring properties and the town of Prescott as a whole. So what we suggest is we recommend that staff work with MTO, the surrounding property owners, as well as our partners in Augusta Township and the United Counties, because as soon as Edward Street leaves Prescott, it becomes a county road. And so any entrances or exits would have to be talked about with the United Counties as well as Augusta Township. So we suggest creating a bit of a working group with that to find an alternative for 1500 Edward. We do believe there are viable alternatives that would allow for the Parklow A4 to to occur, as well as opening up some additional entrance and exits to the east side of Edward Street when we're going into Augusta, that would allow the 1500 Edward also to access. So in terms of next steps, we could provide the information that is included in this report. The comment period closes today. And, but obviously, working with the town, we can submit it tomorrow. That's not an issue. And certainly, we would suggest that we continue working towards kind of that collaborative approach to find alternatives to the east side entrance and exits. Thank you.
Lots of information. Questions? Councillor Kirkby?
Yeah, just bear with me, just while I switch screens here. Matthew, so the town is pushing for, on the north side, alternative N1B, is that correct?
That's correct, which is the preferred option selected by MTO.
Perfect, and then for the south side, I just want to be clear here, we are selecting the alternative S1, is that correct?
That's correct, which is also selected by MTO.
Perfect. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I agree with what you've indicated as preferences here, but there's only one thing that I noticed that I found a little concerning, and that's the S1 selection on the south side. And that is when you're coming south on Edward Street and want to go east. It's a much tighter loop there than we have currently. I know Brockville lost a warehouse in the north end because I'm not sure what you call those, two tractor trailers that they put together these days, two trailers, they couldn't make the turn. This looks pretty tight to me, and we have a North Industrial Park that we want to develop, and there's area in Augusta north of that and west of that, which may very well tie into that. And I'm just concerned that seems very tight, that you might not be able to get one of those double trailers around there, which would constrict development for us in the industrial park.
I can provide that feedback to MTO and just ask them to comment on that.
Because there certainly looks like there's room there to make that a bigger loop.
On the south side?
Yeah, south to west, if you look at S1, the loop coming off, it's going to come off at height and come down around, but it's a tight loop, and I'm wondering about the double trailers, whether they could actually do that.
Is this provided by MTO though? Mm-hmm. So I mean, they would have that in mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine it, but as I mentioned, we're more than happy to reach out to them and just ask them to comment on that.
If I may, through you, Mayor Shankar, I just want to follow up with Mr. McConnell's, Councillor McConnell's comment there. Actually, when I worked at Procter & Gamble, that was one of the big decisions for them not taking on an increased warehouse capacity, was the factor that there wasn't as many 401 off-ramps that could actually accommodate them double trailers, which I believe Prescott and Giant Tiger run during different times of the year. So that would be a great question, Matthew, to follow up, just to see if them off-ramps on the north even to get onto the westbound lane, and then the south one that Councillor McConnell mentioned, it would be able to accommodate them trailers. Thank you.
But we do now, don't we?
We do, just in how the ramps come up will be a slightly different configuration. So certainly we can ask and just see what their thoughts are.
Thank you.
Matthew, can I just ask a question? What's the blue line? Is that just a property line that's on the study preferred alternative at Edwards Street interchange that shows everything.
Yep, so the blue line would be where they would cut off their right of way. So currently the black line is kind of where their property ends, and the blue line would be a change in the property line.
Doesn't make much of a difference except for that property at 1500 Edward.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right. I'll call the question. All in favor with the changes? Thank you. Carried.
I throw something in that's not got to do with this, but another one of these that was in that same report. I was surprised that they are going to redo the overpass over the defunct railway line, the CP line, because that's not there anymore. But if they have indicated that they are actually going to spend the millions of dollars to do this, I believe in our joint discussions with Edwardsburg Township that perhaps we should voice the opinion that what used to be the underpass under the railway line, CP railway line, that used to go under the CNR. When they took that out, they put a culvert in there. And yeah, you can go through there in a snowmobile and you can go through there with your head ducked. But it's not a walking path. And it seems to me that over time, with the development of residential in the northeast quadrant, that old CP rail line would be a nice connection to the walking path that we have along the river. But that culvert would need to be enlarged. Perhaps we might have a joint discussion with Edwardsburg Council as to petitioning CP Rail to look at it.
Yeah, maybe for our tri-council meeting.
Yeah. Dana, yeah. Corey.
Huh? Sorry.
Just a quick comment on that. I'd also recommend, there's a private property owner where that trail actually connects from Prescott into what is officially designated as the old rail line and is owned and maintained, well, at least maintained by the Snowmobile Association. But there's a gap between Prescott to that line that runs through underneath the 401 there, that it would be great if we could engage the private property owner to at least try to advocate on behalf of the community to maintain that trail system when they do develop those lands, to create that connection and have an actual navigable trail. Because to your point, Councillor McConnell, maybe 4 months of the year, that portion of the trail is navigable. Other than that, it's completely underwater. And yeah, it'd be nice to just get into maybe a partnership with the neighboring municipalities and private. Happy to assist with that if
That'd be
you
great.
desire.
Thank you, Ms. Valentine. All right, so we did call the question on that. I did, thank you. Now we'll do resolutions. There are no resolutions. Bylaws, 16.1 is a bylaw to enter into a license agreement with Amrid Petro Holdings Incorporated for the purpose of maintaining a connecting walkway. The motion reads that bylaw 39-2023 being a bylaw to authorize the corporation of the town of Prescott to enter into a license agreement with Amrit Petro Holdings, Inc. to maintain, improve, and use the property legally known as Plan 19 PT Lot East RP 15R 12 to 22, Parts 1 to 18, Town of Prescott, for the purpose of the connecting walkway be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed by the seal corporation. Can I get a mover and a seconder for discussion? Councillor Burton and Councillor Campbell. Any discussion on this item? Councillor McConnell?
Thanks, Mayor Shankar. Every council that I've been on, this has been a subject for discussion going back 13 years. But it was never just a sidewalk. It was an emergency exit and entrance for fire trucks, emergency personnel, in the unfortunate event that the intersection off Edward Street was closed due to an accident. I think we heard at some point in time last term that that's the most accident-prone intersection in town. So again, I was back there today and I noticed we do have a very nice paved path, which looks like it's wide enough that you could drive an ambulance or a fire truck if you were on the ground beside it. But I noticed the specific wording in this is a sidewalk. Can you comment on that?
Certainly. So the purpose of it is a sidewalk. It was constructed in a way that if in a emergency situation, we could put a emergency vehicle through there. It will destroy the sidewalk when we do that. But it was also constructed with enough gravel underneath that even though it might go off of the sidewalk, that there is a pathway that would support a large truck, one of the fire department trucks. So it is able to be used for that only in an emergency situation. And really, when it comes right down to it, the purpose of it is for a pedestrian walkway.
Okay, but it will accommodate it if it has to. Okay, fine, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Okay, 17 is new business. 17.1 is the Women of Ontario Say No. Matthew, you're going to speak to this resolution?
Yeah, so I believe we received a presentation at our last council meeting from the group. I think I just wanted to make a couple of comments that it's not just sexual harassment, but it's bullying, it is harassment of employees, it is degrading behavior towards employees. And I've had to experience that over the last several years. And so I think it's important that there's a mechanism to be able to deal with that type of behavior. Unfortunately, the current code of conduct and the current integrity commissioner process doesn't give that type of recourse to be able to deal with the situation. If you were dealing with employee to employee, a boss to an employee, those types of things, then the employment standards and the Ontario Health and Safety Act are very specific in what an employer's responsibilities are. When it comes to a council member and an employee type of situation, they don't apply. And so the same protections that coworkers have when dealing with each other, we don't have when it comes to council member and an employee. And so I think it's important to look at that because the ramifications is that a lot of really good employees end up leaving the sector or leaving a municipality or leaving an organization because of the behavior of some individuals.
Councilor Burton?
Thank you, Matthew, for that explanation. And I noticed during her presentation, she talked about councillors. She never mentioned a mayor. And to me, it should say a mayor and councillors. Because council, she wasn't saying even council, she was saying councillors, right? So it definitely should say mayor in there.
Yeah, I think all members of council should be held to the same standard, regardless of position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have a motion to support this resolution?
Excuse me, through you, Mayor Shanker. I did draft a resolution that reads that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott endorsed the 5 recommendations of the Association of Municipalities, AMO, regarding legislation to stop harassment and abuse by local leaders and call on the government to introduce legislation that supports these recommendations. And then a copy of this resolution be sent to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Paul Calandra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, excuse me, the Honorable Steve Clark, MPP of Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes, the Association of Municipalities, the Associate Minister of Women's Social and Economic Opportunity, and all local municipalities in Leeds and Grenville for consideration.
Do I have a mover?
I will move that, if I may. Can we add the mayor and councillors in there? How would the wording?
I do have, so that lady did reach out to me
Okay,
between meetings.
yeah,
To, you know, say like, I hope you guys, if you have any further questions, maybe I can relay that message through that.
sure.
Because I don't know if we can change this resolution that they're putting forward.
Right.
We're just supporting it.
Right.
Is that correct?
So for you, if council wishes, we can make a change. This was based on what had come forward originally from the Women of Ontario Say No. So it was being circulated to the same people. And now I'm trying to pull up what the 5 resolutions are from the Association of Municipalities. I thought maybe that might be helpful so we could see what those are. But I don't know if it indicated specifically members of council. Again, if council wishes, this is something that staff can take back, we can look at, and we can rejig and bring to the next meeting as well.
I think it's definitely worth supporting for sure, definitely. But the wording to me needs to be tweaked a little bit, but I'm happy with Mayor Shankar having a conversation and seeing, does she have something up there now that pops in there?
We're just pulling up the 5 recommendations. So the recommendations don't specifically say members of council. So update codes conduct to account for workplace safety and harassment, create a flexible administrative penalty regime adapted to the local financial circumstances of the municipality, increase IC training to enhance consistency of investigations and recommendations across the province, allow for municipalities to apply a member of the judiciary to remove a sitting member if recommended through an IC report, and prohibit a member so removed from sitting for election in the term of removal and subsequent term of office. So again, through you to council, we can change that. I can add in the specific recommendations and then add that, you know, members of council.
Sorry, but even that last one said like a member of council.
Yeah.
So that's,
You're a member.
I'm like,
Right.
we're all members of
Yeah.
council.
Yeah.
So I think that encompasses that.
As long as it covers, I know, because she didn't say that in her presentation, you know, but yeah, as long as that covers that, I'm great with that, then I'll move that.
Have a seconder on that. We have a mover and I need a seconder.
What, for discussion, we're moving this?
What, yeah, that's moving that motion to support that resolution. Councillor Campbell, do we want further discussion on it? Councillor Young?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I totally support the fact that we should be held accountable as well, but my only concern or comment would be that we're giving the integrity commissioner a lot of power. So I think that somehow, I'm not sure, when we're selecting our integrity commissioner, that person have certain qualifications, whether that should be universal qualifications, I'm not sure. But that's one person deciding, right, subjectively the fate of the counselor. So I just,
And I think there was one comment, or in one of the 5 recommendations, it's for the integrity commissioner not to make the decision, but to apply to a judge, in which case, and then it also common training for integrity commissioners. So I think that would help frame creating a common understanding for all integrity commissioners of what their role is, and then leaving it to a judge to decide whether it's egregious behavior or not, as opposed to the integrity commissioner themselves.
But if I may comment, it's a big process though, right? The complaint comes in and then there's a big investigation with documentation. It's not like, here's the complaint, I'm gonna take it to court. My understanding, if that's correct.
Correct. And so, yeah, and our particular integrity commissioner is a lawyer that specializes in municipalities, and so is well voiced in that. But But certainly our previous integrity commissioner was more in the area of arbitrations and mediations, and so didn't necessarily apply the same rules. And I think that's what they're finding across Ontario, is that integrity commissioners might have different set of rules, different lens that they view these in. And so I think that's part of one of the 5 recommendations, that there should be a standard set. Instead of just saying integrity commissioner, and these are the rules that you operate within.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor McConnell?
I'm in favor of this. Excuse me, I don't feel like any member of staff should have to put up with abusive behavior or harassment from a member of council, regardless of what member of council they might be, or whether it's a sexual thing or whatever. I'm just going to throw this out, since there has been some questions about the actual wording. We are meeting the end of October. Would this be a proper thing for discussion at that time to pin down exact wording, better wording? I don't know.
I don't see it necessarily as being a strategic initiative, and I would love to be able to have that day where we're focused on what we want to become and where we want to go over the next several years. I think AMO has done a pretty good job of identifying 5 recommendations that kind of cover that and is all encompassing to all members of council. So that would be my only feedback on that.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Kirkby, no, you're good? I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Thank you. 7.2 is a Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal resolution of support regarding Mapleview Lodge and the request for a 5-year action plan. This is Councillor Kirkby, you brought this forward?
Yes, I did. So it's in support of Town of Edwardsburg Cardinals Resolution 220. It supports Elizabethtown Kitley and their request that Mapleview Lodge Board of Directors develop a 5-year plan to eliminate the annual municipal operating subsidy. And I think the one thing that we need to push back onto some of these groups is they need to figure out a way to not rely on municipalities that are also under tight budgets and work with the provincial government to find ways, or work amongst themselves to find ways to operate without continuous cash from municipalities.
Okay. Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shanker. I'm afraid, Councillor Kirby, I got to disagree with you on this one. I don't think it's a bad thing, what you're saying, but my experience on the board of St. Lawrence Lodge for 8 years tells me that budgets are set and expectations are made and future plans are made by a large organization like the Lodge based on partially the province's promises and indications what they are going to provide over the coming years and what they are going to allow as far as wage increases over the coming years. But when they don't deliver, the money has to come from somewhere. So sometimes you have to tap into the only other reserve you have, which in the case of the St. Lawrence Lodge is the municipalities. Now, the gentleman that was here tonight and spoke to us, Ari Hugenboom, indicated that we would not be contributing to the operation of that facility, that United Counties is going to be doing it on their own. I wish them really good luck with that, but I don't know as I would want to vote for something that tries to commit them to it, because I just don't know if it's possible, especially when they're in a build stage and they really don't know what the expenses are gonna be on that in 5 years' time. I would have a very tough time supporting that. I mean, in principle, I think it's a good thing, but in this certain circumstance, I'm afraid I can't support it.
I'm just trying to pull up that resolution a little more. Matthew, did you have anything else on that one?
So both Mapleview Lodge and St. Lawrence Lodge are supported by municipalities. So in the case of St. Lawrence Lodge, it's United Counties, Leeds Grenville, City of Brockville, Town of Gananoque, and Town of Prescott. Mapleview Lodge's case, it's supported by the United Counties. Sherwood Park Manor is slightly different. It doesn't have a municipal partner, even though it's still completely a not-for-profit. And so they don't have that pot to go to when they can't make ends meet. So that's just some food for thought, that they're able to operate in the same funding regime, but aren't supported by municipalities from an operational or capital standpoint. So.
Justin, do you still want to make that motion?
Absolutely.
You have it?
So, Mayor Shankar, I do have a draft motion here that reads that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott support the resolution of the Council of the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal supporting the Township of Elizabethtown Kitley in their request to the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville and Mapleview Lodge Board of Directors to develop a 5-year action plan to eliminate the annual municipal operating subsidy, and that a copy of this resolution be circulated to the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville and all other municipalities in Leeds and Grenville for their consideration.
We have moved by Councillor Kirkby. We have a seconder.
I don't understand. Okay, I'll second it.
You'll second it? Okay. I just pulled it up from the previous meeting. So it's pretty much what Ms. Belkamp just read out. Develop a 5-year action plan to eliminate the annual municipal operating subsidy as expressed through resolution. So Elizabethtown Kitley started this resolution and Edwardsburg Cardinal supported. Elizabethtown Kitley, they already have Sherwood Park Manor, right?
But Sherwood Park Manor is not funded by. Now they are going to receive a donation from Elizabeth Kitley, but they are running that by themselves.
Right. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
I guess I don't understand so we're trying to say we don't want these kind of organizations to come and ask us for money on a regular basis. We want them to provide us with a 5-year plan so that we can link in as we wish.
Not exactly, no.
Okay.
So if I may, so right now, Mapleview Lodge receives a couple of $1 million to support their operations on a yearly basis. And so I think what Elizabethtown Kitley and Edwardsburg Cardinal are requesting is that there's a 5-year action plan to reduce that to nothing, that the United Counties would have to support.
If I may, for these kind of places not to have a 5-year plan only creates a bigger need down the line, right? And a bigger ask. If Sherwood Park Manor can survive on its own, and when you look at their balance, their spreadsheets, right? Financial reports, it's pretty impressive. The same is for Mapleview Lodge, but don't forget where they're funded by, right? So that's my thing, right? Is I think everybody and every organization should at least try to have some kind of plan to reduce the ask.
Okay. So I'll call the question again. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. And I'll vote yay as well. So opposed, all opposed? Abstain?
Just because, sorry, I just don't have the time to, I'm not understanding it correctly. I'm still puzzled by it, sorry. I understand about developing a 5-year action plan, that's great, but in the possibility that it wouldn't eliminate their subsidy, are we saying that they can't go back to the counties to ask for money?
So I think, if I'm to read and paraphrase, is that Elizabeth Town Kitley and Edward Cardinal would like to say, whatever you're getting now, we would like to understand a 5-year plan. At the end of 5 years, you're no longer being supported by the United Counties from an operational perspective.
Okay.
Okay. You still want to abstain?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So it's carried then. All right, 19 is Mayor's Proclamation, which there is none this evening. I don't think there's any media. 21 is confirming bylaw. Motion is that bylaw 40-2023, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on September 18, 2023, be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Can I move in seconder, please? Councillor Burton, Councillor Kirkby, all in favor? Thank you. Carried. Item 22 is adjournment, that the meeting be adjourned to Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023 at 6 p.m. Can I have a mover and seconder? Of course, moved by Councillor Kirkby, seconded by Councillor McConnell. All in favor? Carried, thank you.
Why is it Tuesday?
Is Monday a holiday?
So Monday is Truth and Reconciliation.
Oh, right. Gotcha. Thank you.
Our meeting at PM.
Thank you.